All right, Mike, here we are. We're back for our next episode of for our past clients.
Yeah, it's almost time to start decorating for the holidays, which a lot of people have gotten a head start on it this year.
Well, how about, can we have Thanksgiving first?
Yeah, right.
Well, hey, we had a great suggestion from one of our past clients reaching out to us after seeing these, and we thought we would spend today and talk about mortgage insurance, private mortgage insurance, PMI, this term that gets thrown around that a lot of buyers have questions about.
Yeah, and right, depending on how long you've owned your property, right? We've seen some pretty significant appreciation gains over the last couple of years. And so it brings up a great conversation, right? We talk a lot about that you don't need 20% down to buy a house. And a lot of people take that advice and, well, maybe they've secured really good interest rates and don't want to explore the path of refinancing. Well, there is an alternative outside of refinancing, depending on your loan type, to get rid of that mortgage insurance that kind of capitalize on the appreciation gains that we've seen.
Exactly. So let's break this down real quick. So if you have a VA loan, for example, then you don't have mortgage insurance, so you can skip the rest of this video. Yeah. If you have an FHA loan, depending on what kind of a down payment you had, you do have to keep that loan either for the life of the loan or for a long period of time before that mortgage insurance would ever fall off. So
yeah, typically 11 years is kind of that mark, depending on your down payment, that mortgage insurance would fall off.
Exactly. And you would have had to put a minimum of 5% down in order to even be in that category. Otherwise, you keep that loan for 30 years with a 3.5% down payment. You have mortgage insurance for 30 years, even though you're going to have a lot more equity in the property. So, this video is going to be all about just conventional financing. So if you have a conventional loan, this is what we're going to be talking about today. So, Mike, why don't you talk about like calculating it and kind of maybe the steps that they could take as far as like just initial steps on getting rid of the mortgage insurance.
Yeah. And I think first is right to figure out what type of loan that you have. And first and foremost is always to reach out to us, right? I know the topic of conversation is refinance and whether it does or does not make sense. Well, we want you to reach out to us so we can kind of review your exact scenario and figuring out, okay, what's the best path for you in getting rid of this mortgage insurance. And so through that, really the most simple way to look at it to figure out whether you're in a good spot or not is number one, take a look at your most recent mortgage statement, right? Figure out how much you owe on the property, figure out what type of loan that you have, and figure out how long that you have had this loan for. Those are all important factors of figuring out the mortgage insurance requirements. Now, I know we send out a monthly newsletter through our Homebot app. This is one of the great resources, right? Your realtor partner is going to be an awesome resource as well to getting an idea of your value of your property. Now, we know there's a lot of third-party sites like Redfin, Zillow, things like that in conjunction with the Homebot app that give you a fair estimate of what to expect. Is it ever going to be 100% accurate? No, it's not. But for this measure, it gives you that where am I standing? And so the biggest thing that you want to look at is what's called your equity in the property, right? You're going to take that loan balance. For example, let's say your loan balance is $400,000. You take that number divided by what your value of the property is. And let's say the value of your property is $500,000. So that factor is going to come out to be 0.8, that loan to value. Now, for this purposes, right, we want to get to at a point of at least being at 0.8 to consider whether we're in a spot to remove that mortgage insurance. Now, there's specific seasoning requirements, but that's a starting point, right? To know, are we in the conversation? Are we close enough to reach out and figure out, okay, where do we go next?
Yeah, so exactly. So now you've kind of used these tools that Mike's mentioned, your Zillow, your Redfins, and you see some different values. You kind of get a good idea of what it looks like. We can also help you with that too, just to further that conversation. Your realtor, like Mike said, is a great resource for you to do a a CMA, which is a comparative market analysis, which can help you get a good idea of what your home might be worth if you were to sell it. So, so first thing we want to do is we want to try to get to this 0.8 or 20% or 80% loan to value, 20% equity. We want to get to this. So in order to do that, you have to, a minimum, we've got to be 24 months into this mortgage before any of these options actually become an option to you. So the reality of it is it's anywhere from 2 to 5 years. But after that, if you can show that you have 25% equity after 24 months, then you can get rid of this mortgage insurance. And I'll explain how to do that in just a second. Now, if you're looking at a 80% loan to value, then you've got to be at that 5-year period in order for that to actually come into effect, unless you can show, hey, we've done some improvements, we've remodeled, we've done an addition, we've done some kind of home improvements that have escalated that value. That'll get you into that 2 to 5 year range in order to be able to get rid of this mortgage insurance. So the next step that we need to make sure that we have in order to be even eligible for this is we've got to have a good pay history. So if there's any derogatory mortgage payments or anything like that, then the servicer of your mortgage could not allow you to remove that mortgage insurance, even though you might have that 25% equity that we're talking about. So the first step is once we kind of run through this number, if Mike or I help you through that, we kind of get to that number, then we contact the servicer. We know we are in good standings with our mortgage payments. We contact the servicer and see what their requirements are and what the steps are to do that. If it's Loan Depot, we can help you with that. We know exactly what you would need to do in order to get rid of that mortgage insurance. And then that next step would be just do the appraisal. So Mike, that's like what, $500-$600 for the appraisal, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, and let's not forget as well, kind of just circling back one step, is that ultimately sometimes you've gotten to a point where you've just paid down your mortgage enough and that mortgage insurance will come off. Now, I know we're talking a lot, right, because we've seen rapid appreciation the last couple of years of really getting to that point sooner than you would based off of a normal payment schedule. But some people have held onto their mortgages for a long period of time, or maybe you put a significant down payment. Maybe you put 15, 16, 17% down when you initially purchased the property. And now that mortgage insurance will eventually fall off on its own, even if you do not request it. These are all kind of ways to get that mortgage insurance removed quicker because of the appreciation gains that you've seen. And kind of the factor to kind of bring it back up is ultimately taking your loan balance, dividing it by either 0.75 or 0.8 to figure out what value of your house you need to be able to kind of be in consideration for that mortgage insurance removal.
And then last thing, obviously, this is we're throwing a lot of numbers at you and all that. The last thing here is, if you have questions on this, we want you to reach out to us. Now, if Loan Depot is not servicing the mortgage, then the guidelines will change, but we can still help you through that. And ultimately, we're going to want to have you contact the servicer so that you can get the exact information on how to go about removing this mortgage insurance. But key, of course, as always, is we're here to help you, and we want you to reach out to us. We want to answer these questions that you have regarding your mortgage and being a tool for you for the long term. So also, I'd love to just kind of wrap up here. Mike, you can finish if you have anything, but I would love to hear some other topics. Like, we got a request for a topic. I'd love to know what you guys want to hear about and what we can help you with.
Yeah, and I think one of those topics, right, that we hear a lot about is whether you purchased in the last year or not. We've talked about a lot about refinancing, right, in terms of interest rates being at a high point and starting to see those kind of gradually come down over the next kind of couple of months into 2024. So that's just a good topic to keep in mind as well, is that, okay, when does it make sense to refinance? Just like when does it make sense to remove your mortgage insurance? That's why we kind of utilize our Homebot app to keep you guys updated of what the market is doing. And just a little plug, they did release a mobile app, so it's a little bit more user friendly. So definitely download that feature for that Homebot app as well. We'd love to hear any other topics that are of value, because sometimes we don't come up with the best of ideas.
We think we do, though.
Yeah.
So thank you so much thanks for joining us on this one, and look forward to the next one.
Have a good one.